What was the best thing to come out of that game? Bogey or whoever?
Yeah, there were a lot of people playing their first game for the club. So 6 first gamers, and it was pretty emotional before the game to see the young guys playing and people that had moved clubs. But there were a lot of other guys playing for, clearly playing for the team, but that also had a point to prove, whether it be Boki playing his first game as not the captain for since 2012, whether it be Tom Jonas as his first game, Jack Watts, Tom Rockcliffe, Paddy Ryder playing with a helmet on, Todd Marshall playing after an extended layoff. Carl Amon basically quit the club post-season last year, and through not being able to get to another club, stayed with us, and his effort pre-season to get into the round 1 team was outstanding, and he had a good day. So there were a lot of positives individually for the players, and I think it consolidates some of the work we've done on building better connection in the off season.
It's been a great release for Jack.
Yeah, it was. His interview post game, I'm sure plenty of you have watched it, and it was pretty touching. He's got a lot of good qualities, and we're hoping that we can see as many of them as possible on a regular basis.
That's such an emotional high, as you just mentioned, for all of those reasons after the game. How do you guard against an emotional plunge this week?
Yeah, well, it's a 22-round season, and the challenge in this competition is doing things regularly. And we've had good away wins early the last 3 years. We've had early wins against Sydney the last 2 seasons at the SCG. Melbourne, the expectation on them is high this year, and ours wasn't quite as high. So we've had that strong early win. So we need to keep building on how we play footy and to be the best team we can be.
Given that you have such a young team, the players, I don't know if this sounds like a dumb question, but the players need to be reminded to lift again and bring the same thing again? Do you have to just have little subtle nudges here and there?
Yeah, consistently having conversations with players about what they're doing well and where they need to improve. And if you're consistent with how you coach, that shouldn't change dependent on the scoreboard.
Bass, do you agree with Ken that it was, I know it's probably a little bit subjective, but the best win in his time here, can a round 1 win be the best win of someone's career?
I think it was important for this playing team in terms of the work we've done in the off season and how we finished up last season as well, and the off season that a lot of the players, some of the players had some pretty tough off seasons, as well as the new players that have joined the team. So and Ken's perspective is a perfectly good one for him, that it's the best win that he's been involved with. So who can argue with him?
So in that context, it is, because it's important given the circumstances. But then I suppose going forward, you're going to have a few more best wins then.
Yeah, well, you hope your best win is always going to be better than a round 1 win, don't you? You hope the best win is sometime in early October these days. So, but there's a lot of work to do between now and whenever that is in the future.
What did you make of the traditional tactic of roughing up the ruckman?
Well, the roughing up of the player is a traditional tactic that's normally done often quite poorly or half-heartedly. So the commitment from the playing group to stick to the task and to reduce Max Gawn to the player that he ended up being for us. I think it was his lowest hit-outs since around 2017. So Paddy and Scotty Lycett, as well as the whole team, did a great job in putting work into Max and reducing his impact.
Did it surprise you that a few of the first gamers got involved with it?
No, it didn't surprise me at all. And that's where I've been lucky enough to work with some of those first gamers for the majority of this pre-season, and they're good characters, and they're people that you can hopefully one day build a team around.
Why do you think they weren't affected by the occasion, Bass?
Well, they've got they're clear on what they needed to do, and they've got the confidence to do it. They've done it enough in the past, so they went out and did what they did and played pretty good footy, and I think some of them got better footy in front of them.
You normally wait at least a year to see probably the best of a draftee. That's probably a bit generous, but you guys got an instant return. How big a boost is that?
I think with on-ballers, they can normally perform relatively early. Now, how long that takes for them to get to where what their best looks like, we'll find out. But the first round draft picks who are on ball, you'd expect something from them relatively early.
As a coaching group, do you believe that your message got out on the ground well enough during the game, given the impact on runners?
Yeah, we trained a fair bit for it during the pre-season, and I think we got enough of the message. I think the great thing about being a coach is you're focusing on the important messages, because there's a lot of messages now where you're like, oh, hang on, we could send out these 5 or 6 different actions which we might have at one stage, but the reality is we know we're not going to get much change if we're asking for it. So it's finding the most important action in the coach's box, and that's where probably now we get to have a little bit of a discussion and work on what's most appropriate for to get the change we want on the field, and it's probably made for a calmer coaching box.
Did you find it interesting to see how many different signboards were used by all the different clubs this weekend? Yeah, and the different quality of the signboards. There was a real mixture. Ours probably sat somewhere in the middle. So yeah, it's been entertaining. I'm sure people in the social media industry are certainly appreciating the signage and the amount of enjoyment that the whole world can get out of them.
How long do you think until obviously Ollie Wines and Hamish Hartlett in this team?
Well, I wouldn't have thought it'd be too far away. Hamish played last week and did pretty well. Ollie is one of our 2 captains, and when he declares himself fit and the high performance team are ready for him to play, then I imagine he'll play.
Hamish has said he wants to play probably a couple of weeks, getting his fitness back in the sample. So maybe Ollie's the big question mark for us who don't really know. Chance this week?
I'd imagine he'd be a chance. Whether he plays or not, it'll be up to the high performance team and Ollie.
Does that all come down to how happy he is tackling and overhead type?
Probably a little bit. I imagine he'll be tested out later in the week to see whether he's available or not.
Straight back in, Bassett. He wouldn't play a sample game, I mean.
Yeah, straight. I'd imagine he'd be straight back in. He's only missed 2 months of footy. He's super fit. He's been able to do all his running through that. He should be fine.
You mentioned guys that played with a point to prove and sort of a bit of a chip on the shoulder. Now what happens? If they've proven their point, how do you manufacture that?
Yeah, well, put a monkey on a piano. You've got to keep backing it up. Keep backing it up, and that's it's always the challenge of this game is consistency, and most people can do it once, but to do it week in, week out, it's a real challenge.
Results are always important, but I guess if you're trying to do a page 1 rewrite on a game style, maybe even more important at the early stage of the season, to reinforce the belief that the new plan is going to script.
Yeah, we're in a forming stage of the team in building our identity and who we are at the moment. So when you haven't got a lot of consistent, successful performance behind you, then you can certainly, you can lose confidence quickly. So I think the real positive was we got a good result from the way we played, and we've seen results on the training track in our pre-season games in terms of how we want to play. The players get it reinforced in round 1, and they should have the confidence that the way we want to play should bring us success. It's about us being able to do it regularly.
For a coaching group as well, it's probably a degree of that as well.
Absolutely. I think Ken's point was amusing in some ways last week, and he wasn't quite sure what we were going to do or how we were going to go, and it was someone sent me the message, and I'm like, he's actually right. We weren't completely sure because there's only 2 JLT Cup games, a lot of new people. We're trying to get the right players in the right roles, but we're not quite sure what that looks like. And to be fair, across the board in the competition, it kind of looked like JLT 3 in a lot of games in round 1, where a lot of teams looked rusty. And there were moments in our game where it was, I think the last 5 or 6 minutes of the third quarter, I don't think anyone handled it to their teammate from either side for 5 minutes. So, I think that all the teams are in a similar boat and still trying to form that consistency of performance and execution, and we're in that as well, and we've got a fair bit to build on from Saturday.
You had a good look at a couple of games.
Mm-hmm.
So lowest scoring round, opening round since mid-60s. So
Yeah.
is there a reason for that? I mean, obviously everybody's looking at the new rules and
Yes.
saying, well, they didn't work.
Certainly there were some rusty teams in round one. Probably the three MCG games were all a battle. I think the first three games. It was, talking to the coaches that were there on Thursday night for the first one, they talked about it being quite humid and slippery, and I think that impacted in a way the first 3 games of the round at the MCG, which were all lower scoring games. So, I think in 4 to 6 weeks, the competition will work itself out.
Blues? Sweet.
Yes. Yep. Shouldn't have bumped that, should I?
Thoughts?
Hang on, I thought the Channel 9.
Yeah.
That's right. No
That's
cares
right.
about
All
them
good.
Anyway.
What about this one? Who's this one? Carlton. Carlton certainly have had significant change. They've got a couple of good players in, a couple of younger. You get pick one in. Sam Walsh, who looked pretty good right from the start. Someone from Will Setterfield from GWS, who's looked at home at the level. So they had a tough first quarter, but after that they were very competitive and pushed Richmond in the last quarter. So we're expecting a stronger Carlton this season.
How's Dougal Howard going, and will he be in the mix to come in with Charlie Curnow and Harry McKay?
Yeah, Dougal's been had a very good season for us last year. He played Friday night and did reasonably well. It's going to be a challenge to break into the team, given how the team performed and given how the defence performed in round one.
So, last couple. New rules. So, have they made a vast difference, though, in terms of the way you set up and what you saw in practice? Did that make a big difference?
The 6-6-6 rule is kind of it's good. It takes out a lot of boring opposition footage in terms of where people are going to start, and it stopped a lot of conversation about whether Westhoff starts behind the ball or in front of it. It's quite so. From a coaching perspective, it's made our jobs a whole lot easier. Certainly the opportunity to score from centre bounce is still there. So we've scored and conceded more goals from centre bounce in the games we've played so far, which increases scoring. But it's a tough game footy, and defences will keep getting better as 22 guys work together.